So I think now, I think we should just begin the prayers and do some meditation. Okay. So we can just begin by just finding a posture that we can be comfortable in. And we can just begin to let go of everything. Let go of our day, let go of our IT problems. Just let it all go. And just allow ourselves to settle into this very moment. Letting all thoughts of our past, all our experiences, just letting them go. And any thoughts we have to our future. And we just let those go as well. Begin to focus on this very moment. And we can draw our awareness out of our head, down to our heart center. Center of our chest, to our spiritual heart. And from here we can begin to listen to and let the words and the meaning of the prayers mix with our mind.
Supreme, unchanging friend, I request from the depths of my heart, please give me the light of your wisdom to dispel the darkness of my mind, and to heal my mental continuum. Please nourish me with your goodness, that I in turn may nourish all beings with an virtuous deeds, and my strong wish to rely upon you. May all suffering quickly cease, and all happiness and joy be fulfilled, and may holy Dharma flourish forevermore. May the whole ground become completely pure, as level as the palm of a hand, and as smooth as lapis lazuli. May all of space be filled with offerings from gods and men, both set out and imagined, like offerings of thee, O Good One. In the space in front, on a lion throne, on a cushion of lotus, sun and moon, sits Buddha Shakyamuni, the essence of all my kind teachers, surrounded by the assembly of direct and indirect gurus, Yidams, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, heroes, solitary conquerors, heroes, dakinis, and Dharma protectors. I and all my kind mothers, fearing samsara's torments, turn to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the only sources of refuge. From now until enlightenment, to the three jewels we go for refuge. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the virtues I collect by giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. From the hearts of all refuge objects, lights and letters stream down and dissolve into myself and all living beings, purifying negative karma and obstructions, increasing our lives, our virtues, and Dharma realization. May everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May no one ever be separated from their happiness. May everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. You, protector of all beings, great destroyer of hosts of demons, please, O Blessed One, Lord of all, come to this place with your retinue. With my body, speech, and mind, humbly I prostrate, and make offerings both set out and imagined. I confess my wrong deeds from all time, and rejoice in the virtues of all. Please stay until samsara ceases, and turn the wheel of Dharma for us. I dedicate all virtues to great enlightenment. The ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers, the great mountain for land, sun and moon, seen as a Buddha land and offered thus. May all beings enjoy such pure lands. I offer without any sense of loss the objects that give rise to my attachment, hatred, and confusion, my friends, enemies, and strangers, our bodies and enjoyments. Please accept these and bless me to be released directly from the three poisons. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. So now, my most kind rude Guru, please sit on the lotus and moon on my crown, and grant me out of your great kindness your body, speech, and mind's attainments. I make request to you, Buddha Shakyamuni, whose body comes from countless virtues, whose speech fulfills the hopes of mortals, whose mind sees clearly all existence. I make request to you, Gurus of the lineage of extensive deeds, Venerable Maitreya, noble Sangha Vasubandhu, and all the other precious teachers who have revealed the path of vastness. I make request to you, Gurus of the lineage of profound view, Venerable Manjushri, Nagarjuna, Chandrakirti, and all the other precious teachers who have revealed the most profound path. I make request to you, Gurus of the lineage of secret mantra, Conqueror Vajradhara, Tilopa, and Naropa, and all the other precious teachers who have revealed the path of Tantra. I make request to you, Gurus of the old Kadam lineage, the second Buddha, Tisha, Drom, Tompa, Geshe, Potawa, and all the other precious teachers who have revealed the union of vast and profound paths. I make request to you, Gurus of the new Kadam lineage, Venerable Tsongkhapa, Jampa, Gyatso, Kedrupje, and all the other precious teachers who have revealed the union of Sutra and Tantra. I make request to you, Venerable Khalsang Gyatso, protector of a vast ocean of living beings, unequal teacher of the paths to liberation and enlightenment, who accomplish and explain everything that was revealed by the fourth deliverer of this fortunate eon. I make request to you, my kind precious teacher, who care for those with uncontrolled minds, untamed by all the previous Buddhas, as if they were fortunate disciples. Please pour down your inspiring blessings upon myself and all my mothers, so that we may quickly stop all perverse minds, from disrespect for our kind teacher, to the most subtle jewel appearance. Please pour down your inspiring blessings, so that we may quickly generate pure minds, from respect for our kind teacher, to the supreme mind of union. Please pour down your inspiring blessings, to pacify all outer and inner obstructions. Please pour down your inspiring blessings upon myself and all my mothers, so that we may quickly stop all perverse minds, from disrespect for our kind teacher, to the most subtle jewel appearance. Please pour down your inspiring blessings, so that we may quickly generate pure minds, from respect for our kind teacher, to the supreme mind of union. Please pour down your inspiring blessings, to pacify all outer and inner obstructions. Please pour down your inspiring blessings upon myself and all my mothers, so that we may quickly stop all perverse minds, from disrespect for our kind teacher, to the most subtle jewel appearance. Please pour down your inspiring blessings, so that we may quickly generate pure minds, from respect for our kind teacher, to the supreme mind of union. Please pour down your inspiring blessings, to pacify all outer and inner obstructions. From the hearts of all the holy beings, streams of light and nectar flow down, granting blessings and purifying.
And we can believe with the mind of faith the field for accumulating merit, the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas have heard our requests, and with joy they bestow blessings. And we imagine that this pure blessings, lights and nectar, pour from their hearts into our body and mind. And we imagine that our body, our mind becomes pervaded with purity, lights and nectars, purifying all our negative karma, purifying all our obstacles, We imagine that our mind is now pure. Our mind is enriched with good qualities, with merit. Our mind is vast as space. Purified. And we imagine that the Buddhas are giving us their realizations. Just imagine the mind of faith. Our mind feels light and vast, mixing with the lights and nectars of all the Buddhas. Mixing with wisdom, profound and extraordinary wisdom. And we can contemplate that in general, faith is said to be the root, because all good qualities and realizations depend upon it and are nourished by it. Faith is said to be a root because all good qualities and realizations depend upon it and are nourished by it. And we let the aspiration our mind will be pervaded by faith. Complete reliance on faith in our spiritual guide. We just keep this as an aspiration, the aspiration that faith will become a root to all our spiritual realizations. And our mind will be nourished by it. And with this aspiration in our mind, we can contemplate the stages of the path.
The path begins with strong reliance on my kind teacher, source of all good. Oh, bless me with this understanding to follow him with great devotion. This human life with all its freedoms extremely rare, with so much meaning. Oh, bless me with this understanding all day and night to seize its essence. My body like a water bubble decays and dies so very quickly. After death come results of karma, just like the shadow of a body. With this for knowledge and remembrance, bless me to be extremely cautious, always avoiding harmful actions and gathering abundant virtue. Samsara's pleasures are deceptive, give no contentment, only torment. So please bless me to strive sincerely to gain the bliss of perfect freedom. Oh, bless me so that from this pure thought come mindfulness and greatest caution, to keep as my essential practice the doctrine's root, the pratimosha. Just like myself, all my kind mothers are drowning in samsara's ocean. Oh, so that I may soon release them, bless me to train in bodhicitta. But I cannot become a Buddha by this alone, without three ethics. So bless me with the strength to practice the Bodhisattva's ordination, by pacifying my distractions and analyzing perfect meanings. Bless me to quickly gain the union of special insight and quiescence. When I become a pure container through common paths, bless me to enter the essence practice of good fortune, the supreme vehicle Vajrayana. The two attainments both depend on my sacred vows and my commitments. Bless me to understand this clearly and keep them at the cost of my life. By constant practice in 4 sessions, the way explained by holy teachers. Oh, bless me to gain both the stages which are the essence of the Tantras. May those who guide me on the good path and my companions all have long lives. Bless me to pacify completely all obstacles, outer and inner. May I always find perfect teachers and take delight in holy Dharma. Accomplish all grounds and pass swiftly and gain the state of Vajradhara.
Gently we can relax our concentration and we can arise from meditation. Okay, so hopefully we can all hear everybody. So my little chat box isn't showing anything, so if there's anything wrong, perhaps you can let us know through Nikki. We're on the section of reliance upon our spiritual guide, and the reliance, we're looking at or we're aiming for or we're aspiring to complete reliance. And the reliance comes from our side. So and there are many benefits, and we've been looking at some of them, and maybe even with these, and we can think of these benefits, we still have doubts, we still, we can, we don't go to extremes, we don't have to force ourselves to think of anything, we just can, we can ask for those blessings, we can make a mandala offering, we can ask for blessings, we can ask for our karma to be purified, and we can just, our mind can be moved, we just wait patiently. And we can contemplate these teachings, I don't know about you, but even reading Dharma, is like pacifying. You kind of pick up a book and you read something and your mind feels pacified. It feels like calmer just by reading. It's got a power, that we can be inspired by. We just become inspired by what we're reading. That this meaning of these words are so powerful. Like just opening the book or listening to them audibly, or even just mentally mixing our mind with them to just align. It seems to have this incredible power to pacify us. That even by itself is such an incredible indication of the power of these teachings, just that sort of, even by itself, we can just read it. And we can even think of our world right now and how there's like so much, like we can turn on the news and there's so much we can zoom into different countries where there's problems maybe, and maybe some people are looking for war, that we should invade and we should begin wars, that sort of like mentality of like, it's how we solve problems. We solve problems using delusions, like using our anger, using our hatred, using all these different things. And we can see how using that causes problems, causes huge problems. And I was thinking back to earlier in this text of the joyful path, whenever we were thinking about Yeshe O and Yanklaboy. So if you remember, it was it's gone back a little bit, probably a year ago. It's page 14, but so Yeshe O and just the last paragraph, I'll just read out. When these Tibetans returned to Tibet, so this was whenever Tibet was like impoverished from actually Dharma, and they were looking for a guide, they were looking for a teacher. When these Tibetans returned to Tibet, they informed Yeshe that in India there are many learned Buddhist teachers, but the most distinguished and sublime of all is Dipankara Shriyana. We would like to invite him to Tibet, but he has thousands of disciples in India. When Yeshe heard the name Dipankara Shivara, he was pleased, and he became determined to invite this master to Tibet. So this was a teacher. Since he had already used most of his gold and more was now needed to invite Dipankara Shivara to Tibet, the king set off on an expedition to search for more gold. When he arrived at one of the borders, the evil king of the country captured him and threw him into prison. When the news reached Yanchupa, he considered, so this is to his basically nephew, he considered, I am powerful enough to wage war on this king, but if I do, so many people will suffer, and I will have to commit many harmful, destructive actions. So this is somebody, again, who has this power, and, somebody who he loves has been imprisoned with perhaps imminent death, and he has this power there, how, and obviously has studied Dharma and has contemplated it, and perhaps has realizations, and is not using this power to actually control people. And then later in the text, whenever he meets his uncle, just a little bit down on page 15, he found Yeshe physically weak, but in a good state of mind. Young Chubla spoke through the bars of the prison. Soon I will be able to release you, for I will have managed to collect almost all the gold. And Yeshe replied, please do not treat me as if I were important. You must not give the gold to this evil king. So again, this mind of humility, I'm not important. I'm the least important here. Like two people with incredible minds that using them, that kind of path, and we can to achieve this in this world. We need a spiritual guide. We need somebody who can direct our minds so we can be faced with problems, and we use Dharma. We use our compassion. We see other living beings as objects of compassion, and we see everything else as emptiness. The kind of manifestation of emptiness. We have this armor, as we say, basically within our mind, so that no matter what happens to us externally, we rely on this. We rely on this armor, and we rely on this faith within spiritual guide who can, show us these paths, these inner paths with this lamp of Lam Rim that can show our mind, which paths to go down and which paths to avoid. And we then have this knowledge. So then I think we finished on page 131 last time, where we have this incredible line, which is appearances are deceptive, and our own opinions are unreliable. Even that line by itself is incredibly profound. And this is saying that we may object, although these ways of reasoning are valid, and lead me to conclude that my spiritual guide is a Buddha. When I actually meet my spiritual guide, he does not appear to be a Buddha, because I can see faults, and a Buddha would not possess any faults. So isn't this our mind? I was just talking earlier to Nick about this, that we can even come here, and there's a little buzzing in the speaker, and we just go directly to fault, and I'm not even talking about other people, I'm talking about myself. It's just like we can just see, everything else, and then there's one thing, and we go directly to look at fault. Our mind becomes unsettled, and we can exaggerate that. We can ruminate on it, or we can completely exaggerate it. We see faults, and we can do this with anybody. Like a Buddha could walk in here right now, and we can hone into a fault. If it said something, I was thinking about, if we did meet somebody who was an emanation, and who knows, maybe everybody is an emanation. I'm just the last one left. You're all just helping me, but we can develop that mind, like a pure mind. But even if a Buddha did walk in, we can see even Geshe-la, if we believe that Geshe-la was an emanation, and then he walked in. It's all very well saying this I've never met him, and I can have this sort of imagination, but if I were to meet him and even spend time with him, my mind would probably go to false. I would go to that line of thinking that was like, this is ordinary, and even though there's lots saying we have all these texts, we have everything, this is extraordinary. But even to meet a Buddha, even to meet an emanation, even to meet somebody who is incredibly profound, who has realizations, even to meet that person, we can very quickly go to fault finding, literally, because our mind is, it's coming from our side. And then it's saying, to change this way of thinking, we meditate. What appears to my mind is indefinite and uncertain. I cannot be sure that something exists just because it appears to my mind. And I cannot be sure that anything really exists in the way that it appears to exist. Things appear differently at different times. While my mind is impure, I will continue to experience hallucinations and mistaken appearances. Only a completely pure mind can perceive things the way they really are. So this mind is like pure feelings, it's uncontaminated feelings. It's purity, within the vast space of emptiness, the Dharmakaya, this, like the profundities beyond words. I can't even imagine it. It's beyond my capability to even actually imagine that. And just believing like that, these words even just begin to think that appearances are deceptive and my own opinions are unreliable. And we maybe know from experience that our opinions are totally unreliable, even whenever we think we're completely right. At many times we then realize we weren't. Our opinions are limited, very, very limited, and we generally believe everything we see. We have to see it, but even what we see is just our own subjective view of that. Many things can be seen by many people, but their view of it will be very different. People can look at art, we can look at the same picture. Some people like it, some people don't. We're looking at the very same thing with very different viewpoints of it. We see different things. And that's just looking at a picture. This is something talking about something much more profound than that. So then he continues, Geshe continues that depending upon our individual karma, beings perceive objects differently and with different feelings. For example, a human being perceives plain water, where a god perceives nectar, and a hungry spirit perceives repulsive substances like pus and blood. Dramatic. But this is the perception of one object, but different perceptions. It's viewed differently and with different feelings. And then it talks about previous students of different spiritual guides and how they actually perceived their spiritual guides. So their spiritual guides very, very realized, but because of these karmic imprints and because of these obstructions, how they viewed them has been ordinary. Like some people can view Geshe as being an emanation, and some people can view Geshe as being an old Tibetan man. It's like one object but different views on it. An old Tibetan monk, emanation of a Buddha. And if we even consider that in terms of our view of that, how we're viewing purity, we're like, how that will, even by that thought, of that belief, of that faith, of that mind of faith, how our mind can be so enriched. Our mind can feel protected and can be actually protected from that. But again, it's just our mind. Geshe says, before they purified their minds, many of the Manasiddhas and yogis saw their spiritual guides in low and imperfect forms. Asanga saw his spiritual guide Maitreya as a dog. So you may know that story of Asanga, who was a long time, I think 12 years in retreat and looking to purify his mind so he could see his spiritual guide. His spiritual guide would appear, and then he'd virtually given up, and he was on his way back, and he comes across a dog, and his mind's compelled by compassion, and that purifies his mind. The mind of compassion purifies his mind. Naropa saw his spiritual guide Tilopa as a fisherman. Devadatta and Bhikshu Lakpa Karma saw the completely perfect Buddha as a very limited being. Bhikshu Lakpa Karma could see a cubit of light radiating from the body of Buddha Shakyamuni, but he could not perceive Buddha's inner qualities. And so he complained, this Gautama has got only one cubit of light. So we can kind of view that. We can even begin to see someone's extraordinary qualities, like an extraordinary quality, and then we can limit it. It's only one cubit of light. It's like, what is there to write home about it? Or it's just like, we can limit everything, and but it's coming from our karmic imprints, which we can purify. So like appearance is totally deceptive, and we can just come with this kind of viewpoint that maybe everyone's an emanation, like every person, every living being. If we had that kind of begin to develop that sort of aspiration of that viewpoint, we see everyone has been precious. Everybody as a teacher. We can consider the following stories. Gelwan Sepa once visited a Sakya monastery in Tibet, where he recited the Perfection of Wisdom Sutra in 8,000 lines in Sanskrit. But since the monks did not know Sanskrit, they could not identify what he was reciting. They thought that he was mumbling some kind of spiritual language, and they concluded, this is not a human being, this is a Gelugpa ghost. So here he is reciting the perfection of Wisdom Sutra in Sanskrit, the karmic obscurations of that is that it's been actually dismissed completely. A man called Narabongchung went to see Milarepa after Milarepa had gained enlightenment. But this man saw him as very ordinary. He said, before I met this man known as Milarepa, I heard high praise of him. But when I approached, I found he was nothing special, just a man lying on the ground. So this is an enlightened being, and this is what what Narabongchung saw, And then Geshe adds, if mistakes like this could be made even in the golden age, no wonder we make mistakes so often in these degenerate times. In the essence of Nectar, Yeshe Sangro says, until I purify this impure mind, even if all the Buddhas were to appear in front of me, I would see them all as ordinary. At present, it is impossible for me to see their holy bodies with all the special signs and indications. While our minds are impure, we will perceive only ordinary appearances. To overcome these, we need to develop believing faith that our spiritual guide is a Buddha. So this is the first thing to do. But again, we don't need to pressurize ourselves or think. We just contemplate this and this mind of faith, just meditating this and contemplating on the benefits of this. I could say in terms of this that appearances are deceptive and our own opinions are unreliable. We can just begin with that. And I think we know that. I think at some level we really know that. But we keep reaching out for those things, knowing that they're actually deceptive, knowing our opinions are completely limited, unreliable. And we can just begin to contemplate this. We can just begin to read these over and over again, and how in these golden age of Dharma, even these examples of how these people saw their spiritual guide as a dog, as an old man, as a fisherman, etc., etc. Just like ordinary, appearing so ordinary. One cubit of light, and we can limit that. I think I was talking before about Tarpa, who was the monk. He died last week, actually. He was supposed to, there was plans for him to come over and do our retreat in Coromila, and he died on, I think, last Wednesday. And I think I'd said this before. I remember the first introduction to him at a GP class. We were in Malaga. I was in a centre just outside Malaga, and he kind of walked in, and he was just an extraordinary person. But even though I didn't really know him, or I hadn't met him, it was, I think I'd said before, it was before he got on to the throne to give the teaching. There was a pause, he just paused just for seconds. And even within that pause, it just was something very special there. That pause of whatever he was doing with his mind, that you just, even though I hadn't a clue, I don't have a clue now, but I didn't have a clue then what was going on, you could just pick up on something, that something very special was happening, something extraordinary. Coming from an extraordinary mind. And even within that little pause, had a great power. But again, that comes if you knew, or if you met Tarpa, it comes from deep reliance upon a spiritual guide. like a deep-rooted actual reliance there on like a spiritual guide. Very incredible person, and with a deep, but a bit like, yeah, basically, like, do not think me as important. Extremely humble, great humility. Everything coming from his like spiritual guide. The spiritual guide being his root, to all realizations, all attainments, and then after that, like still there, like a really incredible example. Yeah. Okay, so I think we've got time to carry on. So then Geshe adds, when we meditate using these 4 lines of reasoning, we're doing the analytical meditation that causes us to develop that our spiritual guide is a Buddha. When this conviction arises clearly in our mind, we stop analyzing and hold this new feeling as our object of placement meditation, so as to become more and more closely acquainted with it. The sign that we have gained the realization that our spiritual guide is a Buddha is that whenever we think of our spiritual guide, we think of Buddha, and whenever we think of Buddha, we think of our spiritual guide. So there's no separation. When we think Buddha, we think spiritual guide, we think spiritual guide, we think Buddha. We always think of them as one and the same. A mind that has this realization is very pure. Recognizing our spiritual guide as a Buddha is a very powerful method for gaining higher realizations, such as the realizations of generation stage and completion and stage of secret mantra. And if we think of all the Buddhas have attained directions, like profundity beyond our comprehension. We can't see them. Can't they're not. We so much karmic obscurations and giving us emanations. Giving us like basically a living Buddha, so that they can communicate with us. They can teach us. They can. I'm probably in the middle of it all, acting to our minds very ordinary, because our minds are ordinary. Like saying somebody, like a dog. Our dog could be a Buddha. That's what, sorry to go to the extreme, but that's where we are here. That in terms of how we view the karmic obstructions there, in terms of basically of sort of like Sangha. Just an old man somewhere. Buddha. I mean, anybody could be an emanation. And this is our link. This is our like interpreter or our intermediary. We need that. We need that spiritual guide to kind of guide us. Okay, so I think we can continue. So it says how to develop respect for our spiritual guide by remembering his or her kindness. And this is 2 parts. Part 1, remembering that our spiritual guide is kinder than all Buddhas. And part 2, remembering that our spiritual guide is kinder even than Buddha Shakyamuni. Okay, so remembering that our spiritual guide is kinder than all Buddhas. How can we say that our spiritual guide is kinder than all Buddhas? Suppose we are very pure and someone gives us some money over a period of time, so that eventually we are rescued from our poverty and become very rich. Suppose another person then comes and gives us food and other gifts. Which benefactor is the more kind? Surely it is the one who gives us in our greatest need. So in our greatest need, where we have no food and somebody gives us food, or gives us actually money. And then we become rich, and then somebody else gives us money. It's saying like, which of these is the biggest for us, the more kind, and it's saying it has to be the first person. It gives us whenever we had our greatest need. And maybe we can say this as we can think back whenever we were introduced to like Dharma. Who introduced us to Dharma first? Who was that person who maybe we've been thinking, other things differently, and we heard a teaching, and something just resonated. Something seemed right about it. That kind teacher at that point. Whenever we were basically impoverished from any Dharma, but that first teacher, so kind, completely impoverished. And that first teaching that we actually heard, we can think so kind. And I remember whenever I heard this, the teacher was saying, even if I was a person, was an ordained person who's now not ordained, we don't think they're not ordained anymore. We were thinking they're so kind. We just look at their kindness. It doesn't matter what happened after or before. We just think that person was so kind. So, I came in, my first introduction to Dharma, doesn't matter what else happened, they were so kind. We never forget that first person who introduced us to Dharma, whenever we were at our greatest need, maybe. Geshe then says that our spiritual guide helps us directly when we are spiritually impoverished. So we're spiritually impoverished, and the Buddhists help us directly when we have a wealth of realizations. I have a little note here at the side of this. It says, whenever it says our spiritual guide helps us directly when we're spiritually impoverished, and I have a little note that said, like, what is love? Like we're spiritually impoverished, and helps us directly. And the Buddhists help us directly when we have a wealth of realizations. At present, we have little wisdom, concentration, or mindfulness, and we have only a small amount of merit or good fortune. Yet in our spiritual poverty, our teacher heals and nourishes us with Dharma, enabling us to improve our condition by increasing our wisdom, concentration, and mindfulness, and by reducing our delusions, making our minds more calm and peaceful. So I think that's clear. We have little wisdom, talking about myself, little concentration, little mindfulness, but the spiritual guide is our spiritual. Yet in our spiritual poverty, our teacher heals and nourishes us with Dharma, enabling us to improve the condition by increasing our wisdom, concentration, mindfulness, making our minds more calm and peaceful, reducing delusions. If we accept and assimilate the wealth of Dharma given to us by our spiritual guide, we'll eventually attain the concentration of the Dharma continuum and be capable of seeing Buddhas directly. At that time, when our mind is rich with realizations, we will receive instructions directly from the Buddhas. Therefore, the Buddhas are like our second benefactor. Our spiritual guide, however, is kinder because he or she helps us when we are in the greatest need. Countless Buddhas have already manifested in this and other worlds. 75,000 Buddhas give the Bodhisattva vows to Buddha Shakyamuni in one of his previous lives. But we ourselves have never been one of their disciples. Before the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, the first 3 Buddhas of the 1,000 Buddhas came and benefited countless living beings by expounding Dharma, but we were not among their disciples. When Buddha Shakyamuni came and taught Dharma, we were not among the many disciples who received his instructions and attained liberation or full enlightenment. After the time of Buddha Shakyamuni, exalted bodhisattvas such as Manjushri and Maitreya, and great teachers such as Nagarjuna and Asanga appeared in this world and guided many beings to liberation and enlightenment. But we were never among those disciples. Highly realized scholars such as Tilopa, Naropa, and Atisha taught Dharma and helped disciples to attain liberation and full enlightenment. But we were not among those who benefit from their advice. The great Kadampa teachers came, but we were not among their disciples. Then Jason Kappa and all the realized teachers came, but we were not among those they led to liberation. If we ask, whose disciple am I? Who is revealing the spiritual path to me? We will see that our spiritual guide is now showing us the same kindness that the Buddhas of the past showed their disciples. Therefore, as far as we ourselves are concerned, our present spiritual guide is kinder than all the Buddhas. So there's quite a lot there, and I find that whenever I'm with doubts or questions, I think we should, talk about our doubts. Talk about what holds us back from any kind of reliance or even relying fully. I think we should be open about our doubts. I think we should question everything, and question about, what can benefit, those kind of benefits of having that guide. We're on a spiritual path, and I think I was saying beforehand, but I was muted. I muted myself, but I was saying before, like, we're on a spiritual path, and and if we're on a spiritual path but we don't have a guide, we kind of don't know where we're going. We're just kind of making it up as we go along. And not making it up as we go along is like general life. It's like ordinary life that we're doing, just trying to find answers. But these like basic instructions are, they're showing us that path. And but with that path, we also need a guide. As we said before, if we went to India, we would be wanting a guide. If we go anywhere, we seek a guide. Just to show, I went to a graveyard once in Paris, and a guide appeared, and he brought us all around the graves. He was guiding us to all the different things. And that's just an ordinary, but with our spiritual path, we can see clearly that we need guidance. We need a guide. Okay, so let's leave it there for now. So I think it's Mark and Nikki, and I think, Mark, that Nikki's going to tune in, so I'll wait and then do the breakout rooms. Oh, breakout room.